Part 22. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 211. Lu Chang'an found a fat duck in the kitchen. He boiled it half-cooked in plain water. After preparing other ingredients, the duck was cooled. All the bones were removed, and it was torn into large and small pieces of meat, and simmered in the duck soup. Add 3 coins of salt, half a caddy of wine, plus mashed yam, add shiitake mushrooms, ginger and chopped green onion before serving. After thinking about it, I added a little chili. When drinking soup here in Shonan, it is not uncommon to find chili pepper in the soup. This dish is called muddle-headed duck. It looks like soup but not soup, and looks like soup but not soup. But in fact, the preparation is neither thick nor light. The taste is distinct, rich in layers and preparation, and it is not really muddy. There is something profound about Lu Chang'an's cooking of this dish, and I hope Lu Yuwang can understand it. After dinner, Lu Yuwang didn't realize the true meaning of the confused duck, but he knew that Lu Chang'an's craftsmanship was indeed extraordinary. No wonder An Nuan was so confident. It seemed that Lu Chang'an was able to capture a beautiful girl like An Nuan. He indeed had many abilities. Yes, they say that if you want to tie a man, you must first tie the man's stomach. Doesn't a woman's stomach have this effect? What makes Lu Yuwang even more reassured is that they just heard that Lu Chang'an applied for a major in biotechnology. Although Hunan University has several well-known experts and professors in this major, it is still difficult to find a job with a high salary in this major. Starting as a graduate student, if Lu Chang'an finds it difficult to find a job in the future, he can also start his own business. He can open a tailor shop or a private restaurant. Whether it is a tailor shop or a private restaurant, they all need a wide network of contacts, or have the influence to lead the lifestyle in the circle of friends. Lu Yuwang just has it. If Lu Chang'an opens a tailor shop or a private restaurant, she can help, then An Nuan will not find a boyfriend who can't make money. Is it wrong to hope that my daughter's boyfriend will make a lot of money? That's right, Lu Yuwang is very confident about reality. After dinner, An Nuan sent Lu Chang'an home. The dish I made today is called silly duck. I hope your mother can understand it in her heart and be a little confused on the outside. Don't mess with it. I feel like she won't understand it, Lu Chang'an said to An Nuan. An Nuan burst out laughing, feeling that her mother would never understand. Let me explain it to her when we go back. How can modern people have such exquisite minds to pay attention to your ancient ways of doing things? Well, there are also peonies. I'll give you one, take it back. Peony is also known as Kelly. Ancient people gave peony to guests, which may be to express separation or to tell people to get out. When I want you to come back, I will give you a bunch of Wenwuo, which is the other name of Angelica sinensis. On an old campus like Xiang University, there are many plants planted, including peony and angelica in some places. Just looking at it casually, there are more peonies, and the trees here are also particularly tall, and the newly built the campus has a completely different atmosphere. You should go back early, and I will take a walk. Lu Chang'an did not go to pick peonies. The night was dark, and the path under the big trees was particularly quiet. You don't want me to accompany you for a walk? You must not like me anymore, An Nuan said, dissatisfied. In the dead of night, it's easy for me to meet female ghosts alone. With you here, the female ghosts have some self-awareness and know that they can't seduce me and won't come out. You will ruin my good deeds, Lu Chang'an said helplessly. That's what I want, that's what I want, and Nuan proudly took Lu Chang'an's hand and shook it around. The two of them were walking and chatting, talking about female ghosts. And Nuan talked about some things he had experienced when he was a child. Some people said that Lushan had a strong yin energy, while others said that the feng shui here was excellent. Qingshan was lucky enough to bury loyal bones. After the revolution of 1911, here are the cemeteries where Huangxing, Caie, Zhang Yuwu, Lu Deye, Chen Tianhua, Jiao Daifeng, Chen Ziuoxin, Yao Hongyi and many other fallen soldiers are buried. The majesty of Lushan Mountain lasts forever, and evil spirits do not dare to approach, so the mind is peaceful and the soul is peaceful, which is helpful for studies. Do you believe in ghosts? And Nuan felt that she should talk about some scary topics so that she could get closer to him, which would fit the situation. It was not because she particularly liked to stick to him. I've never seen one before, Lu Chang'an thought for a while. I have seen immortal people and zombies, there should be vampires too. The state of existence of ghosts is not very scientific. Are immortal people, zombies, and vampires science? Of course, Lu Chang'an pointed at himself with a serious expression. I am an immortal person. If you suck my essence, you may have the chance to live forever. Even if you don't live forever, it is very effective to delay aging and keep your appearance forever. And Nuan shook Lu Chang'an's arm and laughed. It's disgusting, there is no serious word. Didn't I say that I want you to live forever with me? You must absorb my essence. Lu Chang'an has always taken this issue very seriously. But what exactly is Jingyuan? And Nuan seemed to be back to the time when she sat at the same table with him, listening to his nonsense all day long, and she was very happy. Any living body has essence. It can be said that essence is a living state. Look at these big trees in front of you, which are typical examples of strong essence. The same is true for people. Young people have strong essence and need to be replenished daily. When the essence of the body gradually cannot match the lost essence, it begins to age. Lu Chang'an frowned slightly. When science is difficult to explain many things, we have to use some mysterious terms to explain them, which seem to make sense. Yes, it's actually nonsense. Then you are talking nonsense. Essence is everywhere in the body. There is a lot of it in the saliva and blood, and even in the excrement. It is just thin and turbid, not as pure as the blood, and the saliva is slightly inferior. Lu Chang'an was unable to use the current scientific analysis. There is no other way to explain his situation. As he said, it is easier for others to understand the situation by using some mysterious terms. You gangster, and Nuan's cheeks were flushed. Lu Chang'an also said that he wanted her to suck his essence. She couldn't drink his blood, then there would be nothing but saliva. Under what circumstances would you suck the other person's saliva? Of course it was a kiss. So after such a big change, was he talking about two people getting ready to kiss? But what do you need to prepare for such a thing? Doesn't it just happen naturally? Just like this quiet tree-lined path, the shy girl next to her, the body fragrance permeating her body, the gentleness of the breeze blowing on her cheeks, isn't it just him naturally holding her shoulders and gazing attentively and deeply with his eyes? He hugged her, forcing her to close her eyes and restrain her reserve, but did he just kiss her? Lu Chang'an didn't say much about the secret of immortality. For thousands of years, he had carried the delusions of all mankind, and his words were just superficial. Who is playing rogue? Hans Hizi stepped in from the side path and smiled. Yuan Nuan said immediately. I'll borrow Nuan from you tomorrow, Hans Hizi said to Lu Chang'an. She was going to have surgery tomorrow. Apart from her mother, she was still a little nervous, so she wanted Nuan to go with her. I admit that she is mine, Lu Chang'an nodded generously. And Nuan slapped Lu Chang'an angrily, but she sweetly said nothing to deny it. Anyway, she had already made a move to hit someone. Hans Hizi should have understood that this was in Nuan's denial, and she did not belong to anyone else. If Hans Hizi ignored Nuan and denied it, then it was Hans Hizi's business. Why should he explain it immediately? I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 212. And Nuan and Hans Hizi went home together, and Lu Chang'an continued to wander around the Hunan University campus. Living in Juncha for so many years, I can say that I have visited every corner of the place geographically. However, the development of the city is changing with each passing day. Sometimes it is even more unrecognizable than the vicissitudes of the sea. On the contrary, this campus is far from the last time I was there. Nearly 20 years ago when I lived here, many places were still the same as in my memory. The general appearance in the memory is just a rough outline. If you look carefully, you will find that many details that left an impression in the past are hard to find. Some small trees turned into big trees, some big trees had their crowns trimmed, some railings were removed, some cameras appeared, some glass windows were stained by time, some iron doors peeled off paint, and some tiles were stained with water. Rust, some people left and never came back. Life is similar everywhere, it should be like a flying dragon stepping on snow and mud. Occasionally, fingerprints were left on the mud, and Hung Fei kept track of things. Lu Chang'an glanced at an old apartment building that he walked to in front of him unconsciously and smiled slightly. A small girl carrying surveying equipment passed by with a tired face. It turned out that this building had been converted into a student dormitory. Girls majoring in surveying and mapping are extremely rare. Back then, if there were such a beautiful girl in such a monk major, wouldn't it be treated as a treasure by the entire department? It seems that today's male students are more realistic, or it may be a subtle change in mentality. After all, girls in the past did not often have the kind of "I am a girl, you should help me, I don't need to thank you, you still have to help me, you don't want to lick me" or something like that. Between people, emotions are always keenly touched, understood, and then responded to. Today's young people are not so willing to maintain a warm and humble attitude. I will do to you what you do to me, otherwise it is very common to be regarded as having ulterior motives or as a matter of course if you are enthusiastic, but it still hurts your own heart. The little girl staggered and was about to fall, but Lu Chang'an quickly helped her up. "Thank you," the little girl said quickly, standing there looking tired intentionally or unintentionally, her fingers weakly hooking the things in her hands. It seemed that if Lu Chang'an didn't help, these things would fall to the ground. This is a hint. Come on, Lu Chang'an clenched his fists to cheer her up, gave her an encouraging look and left. If you need help, please speak up. Don't ask others to offer it, then reject it several times yourself, and then reluctantly accept the help. What kind of mentality is this? It's really interesting. Of course Lu Chang'an couldn't be sure that the other party would be like this, but after he responded like this, he didn't care what the other party meant, turned around and forgot about it. The girl was stunned for a moment. It was the first time she saw this kind of guy who didn't care if he didn't help, but still gave someone an encouraging look. Lu Chang'an walked home. I fished a few times in the puddle under the sycamore tree, observed how active the loaches were, and found some uneaten bean dregs, which were obviously fed by Zhou Dongdong. There was nothing wrong with loach. When Lu Chang'an walked into the carriage, he no longer felt the aura that was particularly hungry for vitality and blood. In other words, after Shang Guandandan wakes up, the coffin will no longer unconsciously and actively plunder the surrounding life. At least that seems to be the case for now. Let's take a closer look. Lu Chang'an felt that this coffin might really deserve more attention than Shang Guandandan. The mysterious phenomenon on Shang Guandandan might need to be thoroughly studied to understand the coffin. Or maybe what you want to do also requires this coffin, but this coffin is not an AI coffin. It is impossible for Lu Chang'an to ask and it will answer. It also has no instructions, and everything is unknown. After Qin Peng got this coffin, he must have done basic research and analysis, but he probably didn't get any useful clues. For such mysterious things, they are usually studied when they are well preserved and cannot be destructive. Just like the tomb of the first emperor, excavation work has been suspended for a long time to protect the original appearance. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and then began to conduct coffin teachings. What he is going to talk about today is a milestone event in the history of human scientific development. His purpose for doing this was simple: he hoped that Shang Guandandan would not dismantle the TV set to find the villain hidden inside when he ran out one day. Lectures until dawn. Although Shang Guandandan didn't respond, Lu Chang'an thought she was listening to his lessons carefully. There is no doubt that although the current Shang Guandandan is full of disgust with Lu Chang'an, after many courses, Shang Guandandan must have understood that she has been sleeping for more than 2,000 years, and the current world is different from that of the Han Dynasty. Significant change. Anyone who comes to a strange world may have fear, expectation, hesitation, timidity, excitement, etc., and they may also make their own coping behaviors, or Shang Guandandan is unwilling to come out of the coffin, not only because of Lu Chang'an, it is also a gesture of preparation for a strange world. Resistance or wanting more time to accept reality. In short, Lu Chang'an felt that his courses were very effective. The more Shang Guandandan realized the differences in the world under his education, the more he needed his courses. After talking for a whole night, Shang Guan was silent without any response or questions. Lu Chang'an believed that this was the state of a good student who listened carefully to the lecture. Presumably one day after she leaves the coffin, she will be able to appreciate his good intentions. Although she is grateful, she may still be shy to face him, but she must be deeply inspired to start a new era of life, and it is unknown whether she will regain the innocence and liveliness of a girl. The most important point is that Shang Guandandan entered the palace at a young age and was raised in a deep palace where no one knew her. Naturally, she was not familiar with Lu Chang'an back then. However, Shang Guandandan quickly changed from a queen to a queen mother, and her identity as a little girl. Just like many children who are eager to prove that they are adults, they always act serious, and they often try to show care and admonishment as a mother to their stepsons. I hope she can adjust her mentality. She is a stubborn little girl. 2,000 years have passed. She should have figured it out these days. She can no longer regard Lu Chang'an as the emperor who entered the palace for experiments that year. It's daybreak. Today An Nuan will accompany Hans Hizi for surgery, Qin Yinan has left Juncha, and the third wife Lu Chang'an is looking for has gone to Europe. The volunteers have been filled out, the summer vacation has officially begun, and the kindergarten is on vacation. Zhou Dongdong will not go to school. He is completely unaware that elementary school will have a much harder future than kindergarten. Lu Chang'an has to sell rice noodles as usual. Every day of the summer vacation seems to be the same. She goes to sell rice noodles every day and occasionally cooks something delicious. Zhou Dongdong doesn't know where she can always find some tattered things and bring them back to Lu Chang'an to repair. After Lu Chang'an repairs the small stool, I thought if I find broken things and give them to brother Chang'an, I will have repaired things to play with. Of course, I have dates with An Nuan from time to time. The two of them not only go shopping, they also go to climb Lushan Mountain, look proudly at the couplets at the entrance of Lushan Academy, and go to Mizi Lake to see the unfinished art center that looks like an alien spacecraft. I went to Joseshutu to look forward to the autumn harvest of the orange groves, and even went to the remote and ancient window of the world. As for the shops on Posa Street, I basically ate at them all. For Juncha locals, many places are ordinary and nothing special, but when two people are together, going anywhere will have a different feeling than before. Most of the summer vacation passed like this. After the admission notices were received one after another, the students who stayed in Juncha began to send off those students who were admitted to other provinces. Lu Chang'an and An Nuan went to see off Gao Duai, who was preparing to rush to the capital early. This book was first published on Kidian Chinese website and Kidian reading app. Sorry, I accidentally opened the beginning of this book yesterday and looked at it carefully. The more I looked at it, the better it looked, so I started typing very late. After finishing a chapter, I was ready to rest and then explode, but I fell asleep. The outbreak will start again today. Everyone should have a lot of monthly votes today. Don't vote yet. Vote for me when I get the outbreak. Thank you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Julian Kuiken Rusiahwa. Chapter 213. Udafa wrote autumn in the old capital and highly praised the autumn in the north, which is clear, quiet, and desolate, while the autumn in the south of the Yangtze River is slow in fading the grass and trees, the air is moist, the sky is too light, there is more rain and less wind. In a southern region like Juncha, no season has a particularly moving charm, but the four seasons are often distinct. Spring spreads to summer, summer leads autumn, and autumn chases winter. It always makes people clearly feel what season it is. Every solar term on the lunar calendar is clearly interpreted. Just like the dog days of summer now, it is not just a day on the solar term. It is like a furnace descending from the sky, arrogantly burning the heaven, earth, and living creatures, which is really scary. Fortunately, there are such heaven-defying artifacts as air conditioners and refrigerators, which can be regarded as a small achievement in the struggle between man and heaven. Lu Chang'an and An Nuan went to the old train station to see Gao Duai off, and Bai Hui and Miao Yingying were also there. Gao Duai did not plan to fly directly to Beijing because he felt that planes were too dangerous and had too many uncertainties. Lu Chang'an also believed that airplanes are the safest means of transportation in the world is basically just propaganda from aircraft manufacturers and airlines. Gao Duai wanted to take the green train and wander all the way to the capital to feel like he was studying, just like the way masters from all eras used to study many years ago. He also plans to stay in Jiangnan for 2 days, then go north and arrive in the capital within 10 days. This will not be like a quick tour with his parents before, but he will have enough time to experience it on his own. Miao Yingying thought it was very romantic. She originally wanted to be a companion with Gao Duai, but Gao Duai refused. He felt that Miao Yingying was not a good companion. He did not read much and liked to make a fuss. Lu Chang'an was about the same. In the Jiangnan Provincial Museum, we can talk about ancient and modern times all day long, and we can pick out an ancient object at random. Lu Chang'an can dig out a historical record or poem to suit the occasion. What will Miao Yingying do? They just stare and say, "Wow, that's awesome. This is 666, 233, really? Really? How do you know? How do I know?" Miao Yingying was not very sorry, because she finally chose a school in Beijing, and it was very close to Gao Duai's campus. The reason is of course that the capital has better development prospects and educational resources, and it is also a kind of early preparation for future work. The university is in the capital, and it is better to stay and develop in the future than to run over and start groping blindly. Bai Hui gave a sincere suggestion. Everyone has graduated from high school and is considered half of society. Thinking realistically, if Miao Yingying can win Gao Duai in college, with Gao Duai's temperament, she probably won't have the intention to cheat or change her heart. Miao Yingying can safely be a mother-in-law for the rest of her life. Miao Yingying didn't seem to pay much attention to what Bai Hui said. She said that she might meet a domineering president and fall in love with me in the capital. As a girl, no matter how unrealistic your fantasy is, you will keep it in your heart. The group arrived early at the beef noodle shop next to the entrance of the old train station. The name of the beef noodle shop is Mr. Lee. It used to be called California Beef Noodles. Probably because of some disputes between the founder and the partners, many shops that were originally called California Beef Noodles were renamed Lee's. "Sir, the classic original beef noodles, California chicken, crispy chicken, and red oil belly are all okay. The first floor of this store is not big, but the second floor is very spacious. There are basically no other customers." 6 people sat at a table to order. "I want original beef noodles," Lu Chang'an said. "Do you want some noodles?" An Nuan said while flipping through the menu. "I don't eat noodles." "I'll eat it." Then you order noodles. I want you to order, and then I want to order this dried bamboo shoots and beef noodles. Mine is soup noodles. I can give it to you. Okay, Lu Chang'an thought for a while and stopped reasoning with An Nuan, although he didn't understand why she didn't order it when she wanted to eat it, but asked someone else to order it. Then she ordered something similar to what he just ordered. Maybe this is a girl. When you fall in love, your IQ drops. Gao Dui pointed at An Nuan and laughed, trying to confirm his statement with everyone's eyes. This is no different from ordering your own noodles. The three girls looked at Gao Dui, who had a very high IQ, with an indifferent expression. Gao Dui was a little embarrassed and his smile faded. He shook his fingers and said nothing. After all, there were three people opposite him. He also had some doubts. Is it really true to order like this? Is there any mystery that he doesn't know? Gao Dui, what are you eating? Miao Yingying asked. Gao Dui suspected that Miao Yingying wanted to imitate An Nuan. He would not cooperate with such a meaningless thing and just flip through the menu without saying a word. I want the original beef noodles. In fact, the classic original flavor is the basis for the development of a store, so it must be the most delicious. Just like KFC, it always develops new food, but the spicy wings are always the same all year round. Spicy wings, original chicken fries, etc. Bai Fen showed a very smart attitude. An Nuan wondered if Bai Hui ordered the original beef noodles because Lu Chang'an had just mentioned it, but she felt that she was too bored. How could she have so many thoughts? Be generous. After placing the order, Gao Dui said, actually, I will be back during the National Day holiday. We will all get together then, Miao Yingying said with some complicated emotions. In fact, after the college entrance examination, it is impossible for a class to reunite neatly, and some people may even never meet again in this life. Even Gao Dui felt a little emotional when he said this, while An Nuan and Bai Hui were affected and became a little depressed. If in a short period of time we will never see each other again in this life, then it is probably an accidental death. It does not matter whether it is different from now. If we will not see each other again in a long time, it is not an accident, it is just because the other party is not important enough and there is no strong feeling of meeting each other, so it has little to do with the current separation. Lu Chang'an smiled slightly. Several people were stunned for a moment. What Lu Chang'an said made sense, but it didn't sound comforting at all. Most of the so-called feelings that will not lead me to make a desperate decision, abandon everything, start over, make up my mind, etc. are just temporary emotional ups and downs without much meaning. Maybe they will fade away after eating something delicious. Lu Chang'an raised his glass of water and said, we are seeing you off as a good friend, so there is no need to be sad. This life is long, and there is always the joy of seeing you again countless times waiting for you. That's good. Gao Dui raised his water glass and clinked it with Lu Chang'an. The girls didn't take it as lightly as Lu Chang'an and Gao Dui. She didn't clink glasses with them. An Nuan pursed her lips and said, what if it's not Gao Dui who is the gift today, but me? Where are you going? Lu Chang'an asked. Well, places like Buenos Aires, Rio de Janeiro. An Nuan thought that it was far enough to penetrate the other side of the earth. It's quite far. Lu Chang'an nodded and calculated the latitude and longitude. Aren't you sad too? An Nuan hummed and looked angry. Didn't I say that I will go wherever you go? Lu Chang'an shook his head without sadness and hit An Nuan on the head. Don't ignore what I said. An Nuan touched her head sweetly and stared at Lu Chang'an angrily and shyly. Why were there so many people around? She really wanted to throw herself into his arms. Asking for a monthly pass. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 214. Many of the things Lu Chang'an said are hard to ignore. For example, he said he was immortal. For example, he said he knew Yingzheng. For example, he said he wanted An Nuan to suck his essence to extend his life. But it's very interesting. There are few people who persevere and talk nonsense like Lu Chang'an. Although it feels like what Lu Chang'an said is just falling on deaf ears, and Nuan thinks about it carefully and she actually still remembers when she was chatting with him in the first year of high school. She said remembering that his mother was a teacher at Siang University, he actually asked her mother's name, saying that maybe he knew her too. He is obviously a very unreliable person, but he still gives Nuan a reliable feeling. He always feels like he is a trustworthy and reassuring person. It is really a strange contradiction. Now Nuan really wants to throw herself into Lu Chang'an's arms, but even though she is used to playing around, she really does such overly intimate actions when she has the sweet feeling of love in her heart. Especially in public, Nuan is still very shy. It's impossible for the people around you to disappear instantly. Can the noodles be withdrawn? Miao Yingying said dully. Yeah, we're all full. Bai Hui also nodded. It's not even here yet, Gao Dui. I didn't know why. Dog food, keep it full. Miao Yingying patted the table and said to Gao Dui. Gao Dui said oh and understood, and then praised, this is how you should be in love, otherwise, wouldn't you be like Miao Yingying and Lin Xin'e? Miao Yingying's expression suddenly changed. Bai Hui quickly held Miao Yingying's hand, don't be as knowledgeable as Gao Dui. He is not mocking you at all, that's how he feels. Yeah, I'm not mocking you, I just sincerely hope that Nuan and Lu Chang'an will always be together, Gao Dui said. Miao Yingying sighed. In fact, she didn't care much about it. She just cared about what Gao Dui thought about her and Lin Xinhua's affairs. Eat noodles, Lu Chang'an greeted, and several bowls of noodles were served. Nuan ate the noodles ordered by Lu Chang'an, and gave her own beef noodle soup with dried bamboo shoots to Lu Chang'an, and then ate it with the dried bamboo shoots in Lu Chang'an's bowl. Lu Chang'an often eats with Nuan, and he is used to it. Others usually don't pick up things from other people's bowls. Miao Yingying glanced at the coriander in Gao Dui's bowl and couldn't help it, because Gao Dui didn't eat raw food. The coriander was put aside. Miao Yingying wanted to pick it up naturally, but gave up after shaking her chopsticks several times. By the way, other schools have joined forces. Graduates from several high schools danced together and posted it on the 13th website. Please support me if you have time. Bai Hui was unwilling to watch Lu Chang'an and Nuan lovingly in silence, and decided to take the initiative to say when she talked about what she was proud of, she felt that Lu Chang'an and Nuan must have known about it. After all, the video was very popular. Not to mention that it was famous throughout the internet, but its popularity among the Junxia student group was still quite high. Really? Nuan said in surprise and anticipation, then let me take a look now. Lu Chang'an turned his head and glanced at Nuan. Nuan pinched his waist under the table, so Lu Chang'an lowered his head and ate the noodles expressionlessly. It's quite easy to find. Bai Hui uploaded it himself. There are 4 ways to write the owner's name. Hui. Miao Yingying burst out laughing, this name is quite silly. Bai Hui pinched Miao Yingying. Fat brother, look for it, my phone is out of battery, Nuan said to Gao Dui. Lu Chang'an remembered that her mobile phone was charged. This was because she was afraid that her browsing history would be accidentally exposed when she took it out, or that it would be too embarrassing to find that it was not playing from the beginning when she opened it. It's so cute, Lu Chang'an couldn't help laughing. Gao Dui searched hard for a long time, laughed a few times when he looked at Bai Hui's name, and then clicked to play. Bai Hui and Miao Yingying were both sitting upright, eating their noodles nonchalantly as if nothing had happened, because there were actually people who cared about his reaction sitting here and wanted to see how they would shine when they saw them. Don't think that Nuan is just a beautiful girl on Weibo. Wow, you 3 can really debut in the C position. Go sign up for the talent show. You are all so cute, Nuan praised sincerely. There were actually more than a dozen girls in the whole dance, but Bai Hui always stood in the C position. On the left and right are Miao Yingying and Bai Wanwan. Especially by Fen, wearing wedge heels not only maintains the pure appearance of a female high school student, but also increases her height. Her legs are a bit slender, and her appearance is also the best. We danced many times, and the person who did the post-production was a senior who graduated a year earlier. He was very professional. In fact, we also worked hard on editing and post-production before we could watch it, Bai Hui said very modestly, while reaching out and touching his neck, feeling a little tired. He turned his head so that he could observe Lu Chang'an's reaction naturally. But Lu Chang'an didn't react, he didn't even look. When you two go to college, you can brag that you have a beautiful two-dimensional girl classmate in high school, An Nuan said to Lu Chang'an and Gao Duiai. We all say that there is a beautiful volleyball girl in the class who can rival Hui Ruoqi, Miao Yingying said with a smile and looked at Gao Duiai. An Nuan waved her hands quickly. I'm not as tall as Hui Ruoqi, and I'm a professional with that kind of ability. Stop bragging to each other. It's a pity that I missed the top spot in the college entrance examination by a few points. Otherwise, you can say that my classmate is the top scorer in the college entrance examination, which would be awesome when you hear it, Gao Duiai said regretfully and matter-of-factly. It's okay. From now on, we don't need to add the title of top scorer in the college entrance examination. Just say that my friend is Gao Duiai, and others will think he is awesome. Haha. Gao Duiai followed suit and praised Lu Chang'an, and the two exchanged some compliments. You want us to stop blowing each other? Miao Yingying rolled her eyes at Gao Duiai and couldn't help but said, Gao Duiai, what do you think of us dancing? It's okay, Gao Duiai reluctantly nodded, but when I think about that night when you were dancing in your pajamas, I feel like this video is a bitch. I'll beat you to death. Miao Yingying punched Gao Duiai several times. It didn't hurt, Gao Duiai didn't care. Bai Hui couldn't help but glance at Lu Chang'an, but didn't ask directly. What do you think? An Nuan asked instead of Bai Hui. Sometimes girls just like to ask masochistic questions like this. She not only hopes that his answer will satisfy her, but also feels sad when she thinks that what he said will make other girls happy. Sour, jealous, and sad. 99 points. Lu Chang'an looked at it seriously, and then gave a score thoughtfully. Bai Hui glanced reservedly at An Nuan, who was still smiling, and raised the corners of her mouth slightly. 99 points was already close to perfect. Not giving 100 points was probably for fear of making you proud. Besides, 100 points is a bit exaggerated. Fake, 99 points is more like a sincere compliment. An Nuan ate a bite of noodles, a bite of dried bamboo shoots, a bite of beef, and a sip of water. I think it can be scored 100 points. It's your business to give 100 points, Lu Chang'an insisted. I can only give 99 points. My favorite girl is not in the video, so how can I give 100 points? I hate it. I can't dance, An Nuan hummed, her face heated up, and she couldn't help but rub her cheek on Lu Chang'an's shoulder. What a confidence! Are you so sure that the girl he likes most is you? He didn't say it. Bai Hui sneered in his heart. He ate a bite of noodles, a bite of beef, and a sip of water. The beef noodles in this shop were really unpalatable, with a sour taste. Thinking that An Nuan and An Nuan were from the same school, Bai Hui suddenly felt like an old enemy. Today's update is completed. Please vote for me. Thank you to the book club for your generous sponsorship and everyone for your generous donations. Summer vacation is almost over. What are you looking forward to when college starts? As for the real protagonist, she is about to enter the first grade. If she wants to watch Wednesday Bowl dominate the elementary school, she must be fed well and plump before she has the strength. Please give me a monthly pass. And what is that heart competition activity? If you know how to participate, just participate. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 215. After eating the noodles, We chatted for a while. When the time came, Gao Duai was about to enter the station. Miao Yingying gave Gao Duai an orange to eat. The four of them looked at the back of Gao Duai, who was wearing a black shirt and trousers, walking into the train station, and waved, but they didn't have much unnecessary emotion. Nowadays, transportation is developed, especially social communication is convenient, and the world is really close to each other. Human emotions dominate the development of literature and art. Modern people's emotions have become more simple and crude. In some small things, they are not as delicate and intense as before. Looking at the long-term situation from now on, the field of literature and art should be on a downward trend. Lu Chang'an thought about it carefully and came to a conclusion: normal people no longer have so many emotional fluctuations and emotions to indulge in their own spiritual world, so in the future, they will be mentally or physically, mentally and spiritually disabled, confused, etc. A person's achievements in literature and art may achieve results that astonish ordinary people. Maybe it's just like that, but since the upper limit of the literature and art fields has been reduced as a whole, the appreciation ability of ordinary people will also be reduced. What did you say? Miao Yingying had no idea what Lu Chang'an was talking about. It makes sense, but why do I think you mean that only people with some problems can do it? Bai Hui could understand what Lu Chang'an meant. I'm just talking casually. Lu Chang'an really just talked casually. You guys can discuss it slowly. I'm going to pick up my grandpa and grandma. My mom went to the high-speed rail station to wait for me first, and Nuan looked at her watch and said, "Be careful on the road." Lu Chang'an also gave Nuan an orange. The oranges were all bought by Miao Yingying. They were quite expensive. Miao Yingying bought 5 of them, one for each person. And Nuan ate one after finishing the noodles. Lu Chang'an didn't eat it and left it with Nuan. "Thank you for the oranges." And Nuan smiled, waved to Bai Hui and Miao Yingying, and ran to take the subway. Lu Chang'an looked at Nuan's back. The girl was twisting and turning as she ran. She was really pretty, without the bloated feeling of a mature woman. When Lu Chang'an was making clothes last time, he searched for underwear styles and accidentally saw the card. The aesthetics of Dai Shan's big butt are not in the same world as humans and cannot be understood. "She's your girlfriend, why are you staring at her?" Miao Yingying said sourly. "But she's really pretty," Lu Chang'an said matter-of-factly. When he saw Nuan when he was a freshman in high school, he thought she was particularly pretty. At that time, she still looked a little green, with a different kind of childish beauty. "Can't stand you," Miao Yingying snorted. In fact, as a girl, Miao Yingying certainly knew how good-looking Nuan was. Girls would never get tired of seeing her, let alone a boy. It's just that she is Bai Hui's good friend. As long as Lu Yuan and Qian Ning are not pestering Bai Hui, Miao Yingying plays with Bai Hui and spends a lot of time together. Nuan wants to learn to dance. Bai Hui was of course more sensitive to Nuan. Bai Hui could see Nuan's performance and eyes when watching the video just now. She was praising Nuan on the surface but eager to try in her heart. This makes Bai Hui feel a little challenged. Although basic skills in dancing are very important, it may not be difficult to learn a dance, but an expert can clearly judge how well you dance and what your skills are, but absolutely most people are not experts. Most people look at faces, legs and figure. For a girl like Nuan, one pair of legs is enough to attract attention. "Let's learn together." Lu Chang'an nodded. "How was your dancing?" Miao Yingying asked with interest. "I can dance break dance, laundry dance, and am especially good at Yanko." In the early days of the founding of the People's Republic of China, officially organized Yanko dances were everywhere in the streets and squares. In addition to beautifying the public's spiritual outlook, they were also used as a ceremony for the reform of the new dynasty. Music, along with various social movements such as transformation and leap forward, are all filled with joy under the exaggeration of Yanko dance. "Wait, stop it." Miao Yingying raised her hand. I mean, Bai Hui wants to dance and needs a boy to dance with him. Can you help me? Bai Hui hurriedly pulled Miao Yingying. Her movements were large enough to attract Lu Chang'an's attention. She wanted to show that this was Miao Yingying's own initiative and not her instruction at all, so as to avoid Lu Chang'an's misunderstanding. But he still looked at Lu Chang'an expectantly, and then brushed a strand of hair from his cheek with his fingers. Actually, dancing is quite difficult, so I didn't make up my mind, otherwise it would be quite easy to find people. The meaning is clear, Lu Chang'an, don't think that you are a hot commodity, there are many boys who are willing to dance with me. Then you can find someone else. I'm busy selling fans, giving lectures, and taking care of children. I'm quite busy, Lu Chang'an said regretfully. Seeing Lu Chang'an walking forward casually, Miao Yingying stamped her feet, couldn't help but glared at Bai Hui complainingly, and lowered her voice and said, "Why are you talking like that? Otherwise, people are pretty easy to find. Lu Chang'an and Gao Duai, it's different. Gao Duai has a bad mouth, but his personality is actually quite docile, and Lu Chang'an looks easy to talk to, but in fact he is a thorn in his side, and others can only follow him. He doesn't care whether a girl is reserved or not at all. He doesn't consider the modesty of girls. He just doesn't consider the modesty of girls other than An Nuan," Bai Hui said angrily. "He already has a girlfriend, and he and An Nuan are getting along well. You can pursue you in peace, go to Gao Duai, I don't need you to worry about it." Miao Yingying continued to stamp her feet. "It's true that the emperor is not anxious about the eunuchs. But, the emperor is not anxious about the palace maids, that's not right either. How can you compare yourself to a palace maid? When girls play palace fighting games, their targets are always the queens who control the harem." The three of them also went to take the subway. The direction was different from An Nuan. Lu Chang'an looked around, as if he was making humanistic observations. Bai Hui and Miao Yingying were a little silent. Bai Hui thought that if Lu Chang'an didn't have a girlfriend, she would put down her reserve a little and take the initiative to ask him out, but he already had a girlfriend. Miao Yingying was really fooling around, not to mention that Bai Hui didn't bother to be a mistress, let alone even if she risked herself to be a mistress. How could An Nuan be that kind of person? Easily poached? If he could really poach An Nuan, Lu Chang'an would be just a scumbag. How could Bai Hui like him? No, I don't like Lu Chang'an in the first place. It's all Miao Yingying's nonsense. I don't like Lu Chang'an anyway, at most, I just envy An Nuan after getting to know Lu Chang'an a little bit. After all, Lu Chang'an is better than Qian Ning in every aspect. He and Lu Yuanqiang went too far. Lu Chang'an, I remember you said you wanted to make clothes for An Nuan. Bai Hui remembered this and caught up with Lu Chang'an and asked with a little teasing. Here Lu Chang'an took out his phone and showed Bai Hui his screensaver. Miao Yingying also came over, and the two girls looked at each other, feeling that the envy and jealousy on the other's face was too obvious. "I feel like my face is distorted. Jealousy makes me ugly." Miao Yingying danced and patted her face. "Crazy, pay attention to your image." Bai Hui pulled Miao Yingying. Miao Yingying may have suffered from Gao Duai's mental shock for a long time, and she has obviously become more crazy recently. "Did you really do this?" Miao Yingying didn't believe it. Lu Chang'an didn't explain, and he didn't bother to explain, whether he believed it or not. Bai Hui was quite sure, because when Lu Chang'an was sitting at the same table with her, he drew some portraits of An Nuan wearing cheongsam. It felt like this, but she didn't expect that the portraits turned into photos taken by real people. The girl was so dim with this kind of light and shadow. The appearance of a dreamy girl makes it almost irresistible to yearn for her. "We are also from the same school and university." Bai Hui sighed with emotion, and suddenly laughed, as if he had discovered a certain fact with some joy. "I originally thought that An Nuan would not be a school belle when he got to university. Last time I saw a very beautiful girl at Xiang University, she seems to be an international student, I think she can compare with An Nuan. Bai Hui took out her cell phone and showed it to Lu Chang'an. She took the photo casually. Because the girl was so eye-catching, like a girl who stepped out of a comic book, she couldn't help but take a secret photo. Thanks to the Love Warrior Wild for becoming another ally of this book. Thank you for your support. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 216. Recalling the sunshine on campus, it was always inseparable from the shade of the trees. There were spots of light in the shade, which fell on the girl's hair. When she looked back, this scene seemed to be a photo of her campus life. Or on different occasions, on the playground, on the stairwell, on the seat next to you, or half of your little face exposed by the window. In the photo on Bai Hui's cell phone, a beautiful girl with blonde hair stood outside the glass house, her eyes empty as if falling on the sky above Bai Hui's head, and her fingers gently pinched a cute kitten on her skirt. The sunlight fell on her body in pieces, and her long golden hair was like flowing golden liquid under the golden light. Her fair cheeks were transparent without a trace of blood, making people feel like they would hurt her if they touched her lightly. Fragile, without the common freckles on the faces of Western girls, this clean white skin is like the face of a manufactured doll, but when you look at the doll, you can still feel the doll's gaze. Focus, but she is more like a person who has lost her light. Is she blind? Lu Chang'an said sadly. Bai Hui rolled her eyes at Lu Chang'an. She originally thought she could see some amazing look on Lu Chang'an's face, but she didn't know that was what he said. The point is, such beautiful foreign girls are rare, Miao Yingying reminded Lu Chang'an's focus. Is it rare? You haven't seen it enough, Lu Chang'an disagreed. What's more, there are still many beautiful Eastern women over 30 years old, but Western women generally age faster, no matter how much they take care of themselves, so every time they see, in order to show the independence and freedom of women in Western movies, they often show that they are very attractive and move among various elite men. But what I am confused about is it really just an aesthetic difference? It is obvious that they are a woman with skin as thick as a tree. She's just an old woman with eye sockets as big as chrysanthemums. I think people are expressing female charm, but you only focus on physical charm. In your eyes, female charm is equal to physical charm. Bai Hui interrupted Lu Chang'an's ramblings unconvinced. Lu Chang'an thought for a while. I don't know her, so why should I pay attention to her feminine charm? Isn't it natural to first look at whether she looks good looking or not, and whether her skin is good or not, and then decide whether I am interested in her other charms? Haha, man, Miao Yingying sneered. Bai Hui thinks what Lu Chang'an said makes sense. In fact, she herself is the same. However, she will not feel the charm of the boy she meets at first sight. But when she wants to fall in love, she feels that she must first be sure only when he has realistic conditions suitable for marriage will you be interested in learning more about him. But she couldn't admit it like this, nor could she support Lu Chang'an's statement. I think she is a little prettier than An Nuan. After all, she is a foreign girl like a doll. She may look more stunning at first sight. Bai Hui took advantage of such an objective opportunity to slightly attack An Nuan in front of Lu Chang'an, but she was still a little secretive. So cool. What you think is what you think. Lu Chang'an didn't take it seriously. It didn't matter even if others said An Nuan was ugly, unless An Nuan was angry. Lu Chang'an's indifferent attitude made Bai Hui secretly unhappy. It didn't make Lu Chang'an unhappy at all, but Bai Hui was a little unhappy. There are such beautiful international students at Hunan University, maybe they are freshmen, otherwise it would have become popular a long time ago. When I went to hang out on the Xiongda Post bar a while ago, I saw that among the beauties from the school they posted, there was no one like this girl. Miao Yingying also thought about applying to Hunan University, but in the end she ran to the capital. She also followed some information about Hunan University in the post bar. If a girl of this level had come to Hunan University early, it would be impossible not to be noticed. She would definitely be among the beauties. Top of the rankings. She must be a freshman. I always thought that the international students at Hunan University were only black. I was wandering around in Hunan University, and when I passed by the international student dormitory, I smelled the boss's perfume. It was so overwhelming. Bai Hui wanted to change the subject. If they don't use perfume, you won't be able to stand the smell. Miao Yingying nodded and said. What you are talking about is objective facts, not discrimination. Lu Chang'an clenched his fists to express support. I support you, stay clean in college and stay away from black boyfriends. We definitely won't, but Lu Chang'an, you can bring glory to the country by finding a foreign girlfriend. Miao Yingying giggled. Are you a little too disrespectful to An Nuan? Lu Chang'an looked at Miao Yingying seriously. Lu Chang'an's eyes were serious and serious. Once a person who usually laughs and laughs shows such an expression, it always makes people embarrassed and embarrassed. Miao Yingying is even a little afraid of Lu Chang'an like this and looks embarrassed. No, she was just joking, don't take it seriously. Bai Hui quickly smoothed things over. Don't make such jokes, even Gao Dui would hate such jokes. Lu Chang'an smiled again, waved his hand, let's go. Lu Chang'an did not go to the subway with Miao Yingying and Bai Hui. He just walked from the passage of the subway station to the other side of the street. Seeing Lu Chang'an leave, Miao Yingying stamped her feet and got angry. She felt a little embarrassed. Lu Chang'an really couldn't take a joke. Some people are like this. It doesn't matter how you make fun of them. They seem to be easy to talk to, but in fact, their bottom line cannot be touched by others. Bai Hui took Miao Yingying's hand, just like what Gao Dui said about you and Lin. Aren't you also unhappy about the things that are on your mind? Can this be the same? Gao Dui, he clearly knows that I have a little interest in him. Miao Yingying felt a little hot after saying that. She still can't figure out how she could have a crush on Gao Dui, a straight man. Obviously not as handsome as Lin Xinhua, nor as good at talking as Lin Xinhua. Yes, you also know that Lu Chang'an likes An Nuan, and he really takes An Nuan into his heart. This is probably what boys are like. Thinking of An Nuan's appearance, Bai Hui felt more and more unwilling. What makes Lu Chang'an like him so much? However, he still told Miao Yingying the correct truth. Actually, I still feel sorry for you. I always feel that Lu Chang'an likes you first. Miao Yingying said angrily. Don't blame me again. Bai Hui felt a little sour in her heart. What surprised her was that it was the same pride as before, but besides the pride, there was also a little sourness, and something sweet was sprouting. Of course, after feeling these sweet things, the rest was sour, because no one would spread the legend that Lu Chang'an fell down the stairs when he saw her in a daze. Bai Hui looked at the people walking back and forth in the underground passage, sighed softly, and swiped the card to enter the station with Miao Yingying. Life is probably a one-way subway, and no one can predict the fate that will accompany him to the end. Who is it? Lu Chang'an is just a passerby who got off the bus on the way. Lu Chang'an may not be able to accompany An Nuan until the end. Lu Chang'an studied biotechnology and An Nuan studied accounting. The two colleges are quite far apart. The university is also a small society filled with materialistic desires, and college students generally do not work. People are so busy and yet so far apart. When they are idle, someone might take advantage of the situation and sneak in. When Lu Chang'an and An Nuan break up, what should I do? Thinking of this, Bai Hui couldn't help but look forward to it. At that time, she would wear a very fairy-like skirt, smile and be gentle like a fairy, and sit quietly next to him, watching him feel sad and lost, and then what? Nor the silence of speaking. Such a scene is really satisfying to look forward to, Bai Hui thought, pulling Miao Yingying and hurriedly ran into the subway car where the beeping sound was beeping. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 217. Lu Chang'an walked slowly back from the train station. On the way, he met a motorcycle driver chasing him to solicit customers. Lu Chang'an was puzzled by his enthusiasm and persistence and asked casually what the starting price was. What's the starting price for wrapping something? 25 yuan for Ping Hetang and 35 yuan for Posa Street. Where are you going? I'll just ask. I'm afraid you're a bit too precious, I'm in your room. Lu Chang'an didn't mind either, but it was a pity that he didn't own an electric car, otherwise he thought he could make some money. This driver was a bit shady. Based on the experience of traveling all over the country, everyone must know that 8 out of 10 people soliciting customers near transportation hubs are best not to talk to them. Basically, they are not people who meet the traditional life and work ethics requirements of the Chinese people. Lu Chang'an lamented that people nowadays are too violent, and looked up at the sun again, thinking that if he wanted to work in such weather, he could understand the main points of the aggression. Thinking that he would take some time off after the college entrance examination and become lazy. He hadn't run for a long time, so Lu Chang'an ran back. You know what he's like, Yazzie is a pretty fast runner. Why don't you go to the Olympics? Run, run, run again, and you'll get a heat stroke later. The scolding voice of the scooter driver could no longer be heard. Lu Chang'an ran through Yuanjialing, the Fire Palace, Furong Square, and Pinghe Hall, which reminded him of the hero running in Forrest Gump. He has watched this movie twice, and both times had different feelings. The first time focused on the stupid but legendary experience of the male protagonist, and the second time focused on the heroine Jenny. After watching this movie twice, Lu Chang'an had some insights again, and at the same time he realized that no matter how long he lived, he would not be able to update his insights on social observation. After all, the new era produced new phenomena that had never been observed in the past. In Forrest Gump's era, drugs and the like were already common in the United States. Countries that have not been driven to the point of national subjugation by these things will not feel the pain, and will naturally be more indulgent until they are corroded to the point of pain by the overflow of these things. By the time, it must be too late. The self-destruction of human beings is probably rooted in genes, but we are different. The future of human beings may be self-destruction. If we are the only ones left on the earth by then, it will definitely be meaningless, or not necessarily, if we are the only ones left on the earth. If you are left alone, can you develop into a sufficiently powerful AI machine era on your own? By then, he will be the only biological human being in the era of robots. Or is there no difference between my current situation and the situation I just imagined? Or is he really an old human being left over from the last human era, who created modern humans to accompany him? Lu Chang'an did not dare to look at memories that were too far away. Those memories had been fragmented to the atomic level. With his current mental strength, he could not organize them. This protective state was probably to prevent himself from discovering the truth of the past. Only by not knowing can we live more peacefully among modern humans. If I recall that the situation I have imagined is true, I don't know what kind of mood I will feel now. Just like Nuwa came to her pile of clay figures, after a short period of freshness and surprise, she was probably more lonely because she knew that the people around her were not really her own kind. Lu Chang'an was thinking about all these things. When he returned to the door, he suddenly laughed. He was a person who wanted to live in the present. Thinking about these things didn't seem to make much sense. Even if it was an epiphyllum, it was beautiful in an instant. Why bother about it? Will eventually be annihilated. Zhou Dongdong was struggling to move his steps while holding a small table. There was a hole in the center of the small table, and her head stuck out of the hole. When she stood up, her shoulders lifted the small table, and then she staggered towards the door of Lu Chang'an's house. What are you doing? Lu Chang'an found that this was the question he asked Zhou Dongdong most. I found the sick table. Zhou Dongdong stopped, retracted his head from the hole, crawled out from under the table, jumped over and said to Lu Chang'an as if he was taking credit. I thought I saw a square turtle. Lu Chang'an already knew Zhou Dongdong's intention. A turtle crawls on its four legs on the ground. Zhou Dongdong immediately bent down, put his hands on the ground, and raised his head to look at Lu Chang'an. That's it? Lu Chang'an spanked her on the buttocks, and Zhou Dongdong fell to the ground with a cry of ouch. The turtle was too round, and its belly was too close to the ground. Zhou Dongdong turned over and danced, jumping and pouting. He said, "Don't bully me. I won't repair this table anymore." Lu Chang'an has repaired 3 small benches, 2 small benches, a broken radio, a short-legged transformer, a helicopter without propellers, and several other items. The little things were all found by Zhou Dongdong. Zhou Dongdong seems to have awakened her talent for work, picking up rags. The little table is so pitiful. If you fix it, it won't get sick. Zhou Dongdong touched the small table distressedly. You will be a primary school student in the next semester. You should understand that the small table will not get sick. And I remember that the small bench that was sick was thrown into the fire by you. Lu Chang'an said seriously, primary school students must mature, don't think the small table will get sick anymore. Zhou Dongdong frowned. How could he convince Brother Chang'an to repair the small table? The small table is repaired, and we can do our homework together on the small table. Zhou Dongdong suddenly remembered what he had thought when he picked up this small table, and he and his brother Chang'an were doing homework under the sycamore tree. In this way, Zhou Dongdong, there is no need for someone to look at a book and be very sad. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and decided that this was a good reason, so he went to get the tools. Zhou Dongdong followed Lu Chang'an happily because he heard a child in the kindergarten said that her sister had to do a lot of homework every day since she entered elementary school. Zhou Dongdong was a little scared, but if he did homework with Brother Chang'an, he could do it. Help him with the work, and then ask Brother Chang'an to help with his homework. Of course, it would be better if they didn't have to go to elementary school. Unfortunately, Zhou Dongdong's children were beaten by Zhou Shuling. Zhou Dongdong also knew that there are some difficult things in children that cannot be avoided and can only be faced. Lu Chang'an found a piece of wood and planned to repair the holes in the small table first, and then find cardboard, plastic, and paint to beautify the tabletop. Zhou Dongdong showed great interest in painting, but Lu Chang'an put her. I ran away, and after the paint was finished, I had to hang the table on the tree first. While he was busy, Lu Chang'an received a message from Qin Yinan, bring over the dishes he cooked for tonight. Qin Yinan went back to find Qin Peng and had been there for more than a month. Lu Chang'an was not a person who asked too many questions, and he didn't know what relevant information she got. Lu Chang'an replied with one word, okay. Guys, please order monthly tickets and recommended tickets. Look at my update, I am really just waiting for tickets. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 218. Who was the earliest carpenter in human history? Definitely not Lu Ban, but most carpenters regard Lu Ban as their ancestor. Lu Chang'an is not a professional carpenter, and he does not recognize Lu Ban as his ancestor, but he still admires talented people like Lu Ban. It has nothing to do with the so-called craftsmanship, but lies in the spirit of creation and innovation, even though many of his inventions have been invented by now. There are more advanced alternatives, but Lu Chang'an remembers that just 20 or 30 years ago, the majority of carpenters using Lu Ban's inventions such as the ruler, ink fountain, and plane were still very active. The profession of carpenter is not prosperous at the moment, and there is little hype about the spirit of craftsmanship. The ones who make pots and knives are worse than those who make kitchen knives. When 3D printing becomes more popular in the future, carpenters will be able to master all kinds of carvings after years of hard work. Craftsmanship will naturally be forgotten by the popularization of technology. In fact, many of the exquisite woodworking carvings nowadays are no longer done by craftsmen. Similar to paper cutting, there are many extremely complicated paper cutting handicrafts. There may only be 10 or 8 people in the country who can achieve such a top level, but for a machine, it only takes 3 minutes to learn how to operate it and input the drawing data, and then it is 10 times more complicated. The finished product can also be made by a primary school student. The primary school students here do not include Zhou Dongdong. After all, she is only a quasi-primary school student, and she is particularly stupid. What others can learn in 3 minutes, it may take her. In general, the transcendent achievements of all technological innovations are overtaking in a corner. Therefore, if you want to surpass a country that has mastered the authority and standards of old technology, you must work hard in areas that can establish new standards to surpass. Otherwise, you will always just chase by. For example, the Indians are very smart. If others build aircraft carriers, we can develop star destroyers first. Lu Chang'an still uses a handsaw and a plane, working slowly and carefully, and doing repair work unhurriedly. In fact, he can buy a new table for dozens of dollars, but that seems to be meaningless. Zhou Dongdong's the purpose is not to have a new table, but to have a repaired old table, so from this little thing, we can see that modern humans are not something created based on logic, or that the assembly line of manufacturing humans is humans have added a reaction system beyond Lu Chang'an's understanding. Zhou Dongdong, are you a robot? Lu Chang'an looked at the child next to him who was fussing around and wanted to help, but in fact he could only make trouble. I am. Then I'm going to turn off your power. No. Pop, it's off. I opened it myself again. Where can there be a robot like you? I'm just such a robot. Such a robot was really annoying. Lu Chang'an was about to paint the robot, so he lifted the robot to sit under the sycamore tree and told her that if she obeyed, she would get delicious food. This robot, which did not obey orders, finally became honest. After Lu Chang'an finished painting, he did not hang the table on the tree, but placed it on the top of the carriage for ventilation. Zhou Dongdong was still sitting next to the puddle feeding tofu dregs to the loaches, and then asked Lu Chang'an, "Brother Chang'an, will there be thunder today?" No. Lu Chang'an looked at the weather and shook his head. Zhou Dongdong looked at the loach in the puddle very happily and pursed his lips again. Lu Chang'an also took a look at the loaches. Zhou Dongdong was very dedicated in feeding the loaches. These loaches have grown fat, tender and round. He has not given any more pullets to Shangguan Dandan since he got his college entrance examination results. Until now. It has been more than a month, and Shangguan Dandan has not shown any signs of discomfort. Could it be that after she wakes up, absorbing vitality and blood is no longer dispensable for her? Let's throw a little hen in tomorrow for an experiment, Lu Chang'an thought, and then turned around to see the sunset wrapping a similar face. Xin Kiji's poem suddenly came to mind, and his sleep was calm most of the time. I had never searched for her thousands of times in my dream, but when I suddenly looked back, I saw that person finally traveled through 100 years and came here. A few stones under Lu Chang'an's feet fell into the puddle, causing loaches to pounce, thinking they were bean dregs dropped by Zhou Dongdong. Lu Chang'an looked down and saw that there was no strong reflection on the water under the shade of the trees. It was not because he was dazzled. But she has passed away, and her bones were recovered and reburied after the founding of the People's Republic of China. No one can be resurrected from the dead. Traveling through time and space is only a privilege for future humans. The beautiful woman from 100 years ago is not the same as the countless unlucky beauties in history. What is the difference? A flash in the pen, a wave dotted in the long river of time, and then the long river continues to move forward. The waves are only in memory, remembered or not. Jin, er. Lu Chang'an opened his lips slightly and made an almost inaudible sound from his throat. He slowly raised his eyelids, reached out and splashed a splash of water on his face. "What are you doing?" The familiar voice was cold and tender, which was completely different from when you were with someone close to you. It also had a hint of pride and teasing, and it seemed that you couldn't help but laugh. Lu Chang'an came back to his senses, showed a smile, and did not look back. He just looked at the sycamore tree in front of him, raised his sleeves and wiped his cheeks. "It's Qinyanan, not Yesijin." Zhou Dongdong picked up a splash of water and slapped it on his face. It was not fun at all. Then he wondered, what was Brother Chang'an doing just now? "Zhou Dongdong, why are you imitating him again?" Qinyanan quickened his pace a little. It was really strange that the big one and the little one were squatting next to the muddy puddle, holding water and splashing their faces. Lu Chang'an's reaction just now must have misunderstood that she was Yesijin, which made Qinyanan's doubts even worse. However, this was the effect she wanted. Qinyanan was sure that even if Lu Chang'an saw An Nuan wearing a cheongsam, she would not. "I'll be as distracted as I was just now." "I thought it was fun," Zhou Dongdong said disappointedly. Qinyanan couldn't understand Zhou Dongdong's brain circuit. The water was not clean, and his brain was not normal. "I'm back." Lu Chang'an turned around and looked at Qinyanan, who was wearing the custom-made cheongsam he was explaining with his usual gentle and normal smile. Qinyanan is one of the few beautiful women Lu Chang'an knows who does not have bangs. The other one is Lu Yuang. Girls of An Nuan and Zhu Huntang's age naturally like the look of bangs, and the third wife has seen her several times. They also all have hairstyles with bangs. Bangs are very important to girls. Many girls especially hate others playing with their bangs, because it will make her look completely different, and even make her panic, fearing that she will look different and ugly in front of others. Became not myself. It's not that good-looking girls with bangs will not look good if they remove their bangs, but many girls feel that if their foreheads are not covered, they will look out of proportion with their little faces. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 219. Qinyanan's green hair is parted in front of her forehead, passed behind her ears, and tied casually to a red jade hairpin at the back of her neck. She has a simple but somewhat graceful temperament. With the falling bun, it adds to the charm of a mature woman, a touch of softness and very charming. Compared with the day when she left Juncha and served drinks in Lu Chang'an, Qinyanan's cheeks are a little plumper, which makes people feel a little less cold and arrogant, and her body is a little fatter, which will probably make people more amazed now. She became more mature as she walked, and her waist was a little plumper, but even more attractive. It is probably these small changes that make her more similar to the Yesijin in Lu Chang'an's impression in terms of temperament and feeling. If she didn't say anything and just walked forward with a soft smile, Lu Chang'an would probably pour a few more handfuls of water on her. "Wake yourself up." Back Qinyanan nodded, still looking at Lu Chang'an with interest. "Why are you throwing mud on your face? Don't you know, wild boars like to wallow in muddy water the most. It's natural, healthy, and environmentally friendly." Lu Chang'an stood up, turned around and walked into the room. "Sister, I'll come and play with you later," Zhou Dongdong shouted, stood up, threw his calves away, and followed Lu Chang'an into the house. Lu Chang'an wiped Zhou Dongdong's face, then washed his face and hands before walking out again. Qinyanan placed the food box on Zhou Dongdong's small bench. Zhou Dongdong circled around the small bench, then sniffed and squatted down, reaching out and touching the food box. "Sister, what's in here?" "Ah." Qinyanan noticed the difference in the names. Today, she called her sister. She looked at Zhou Dongdong and smiled, shaking her head slightly. "It's delicious. I'll give it to you later." "Thank you, Sister Zhou Dongdong reached out and touched the food box. Lu Chang'an also pointed to the food box, "Let me see what you cooked today." Pufferfish. 3 or 2 branches of peach blossoms outside the bamboo are the duck's profit when the spring river is warm. The ground is covered with wormwood and short reed buds. It's the time when pufferfish is about to bloom. Times are progressing. If you want to eat pufferfish now, you can eat it. Lu Chang'an set up the tables and chairs. Please. Zhou Dongdong knelt on the chair and watched motionless. Qin Yinan opened the food box and found a portion of pufferfish dumplings, a portion of pufferfish boiled in fresh soup, a portion of pufferfish skin mixed with orange vinegar, and a portion of pufferfish sashimi, all home-cooked dishes. What's wrong with the pufferfish? Lu Chang'an thought it must be the pufferfish that made Qin Yinan angry, so he thought of ways to eat it. The tableware is all lacquered black wooden bowls and chopsticks, with irregular peach blossoms on the edges. The ends of the chopsticks are delicately wrapped with gold foil, and there is a hollow in the middle. There is a tiny bell hanging on it. When you lift the chopsticks, it makes a crisp sound. But it was just enough for me to hear. Guess how you made this fresh soup? Of course Qin Yinan wanted to grill Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an sniffed. His nose is naturally more sensitive than ordinary people. The memory from the nose seems to be more sensitive than the brain. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and said with certainty, "You are testing common sense. If you want the pufferfish to be fat and tender, must be simmered with chicken hooves, chicken will not be fat without hooves, and dolphin will not be fresh without chicken, so it is naturally cooked with chicken hoof soup." Qin Yinan was very impressed because chicken hoof soup actually smelled a little different from chicken soup, and it was not common sense as he said. Homemade recipes and even more than 90% of restaurants that can make pufferfish would not use chicken hoof soup. The pufferfish skin mixed with orange vinegar is an appetizer. The orange vinegar is paired with chopped green onion. The slightly sour aroma is very attractive and increases appetite. Needless to say, the pufferfish dumplings look ordinary, but the ingredients are very particular. The dumplings and clear soup are separated and are now put together. The pufferfish sashimi is arranged in a peacock style. The extremely thin pufferfish sashimi is placed on the plate, and the cut fish skin, lime slices and fish liver are placed in a corner of the plate. The overall appearance as gorgeous as a peacock spreading its tail. I'm afraid you won't be used to it. I didn't use white onions. I used vegetable leaves to roll the fish fillets and dip them in lime sauce. It felt pretty good. Qin Yinan glanced at Zhou Dongdong, who was holding the edge of the table tightly with both hands. Eat. Zhou Dongdong started to eat. Lu Chang'an and Qin Yinan also sat down. In this old community, such exquisite dishes and tableware did not seem out of place. After all, the most important thing is deliciousness. Once eaten, no matter how exquisite the dishes are, they cannot maintain their original taste. Mutually. You trust my craftsmanship? Many people don't dare to eat pufferfish, even if others know how to handle it. Qin Yinan held the fish fillets. Her skin color was more delicate than the fish fillets. The fish fillets touched the lip lines, which made her look, the fish meat is a little rough. I ate. Lu Chang'an thought for a while, but did not say that he would not die even if he ate wild pufferfish ovaries. I have eaten it many times, and there is nothing wrong with it. And looking at the fish skin, it is chrysanthemum yellow. It has been a long time since I ate it. If you eat it and dare not eat it for fear of death, you are not worthy of being a Chinese. Actually, if it's not wild, it won't be toxic if handled properly. It'll just make you a little upset at most. You can ask Zhou Dongdong to finish eating later and don't eat anything cold. I know, I'm here. Lu Chang'an glanced at Zhou Dongdong, and suddenly found that the pufferfish looked very angry like the child next to him. After eating the food for a while, it seemed that the food tasted so good that the atmosphere was a bit quiet and lively. The quiet ones were Lu Chang'an and Qin Yinan, and the lively one was Zhou Dongdong. Zhou Dongdong has never eaten such delicious fish, which is even more delicious than loach. He can't help but think of Fairy Sister's many fish that Zhou Dongdong has never eaten before. I wonder if they are all so delicious. Don't you have anything to ask me? Qin Yan'an took a piece of fish white and looked at Lu Chang'an. She eats very gracefully and slowly. Beautiful women are always particularly attractive when their lips and tongue are slightly open and closed. No, Lu Chang'an thought for a moment, aren't summer air tickets quite expensive? Qin Yan'an's arm trembled and she almost dropped the fish on the ground. She quickly opened her mouth and bit it. She choked on his question and wanted to cough. But as an elegant, mature, and beautiful lady, she couldn't spray it all over Lu Chang'an's face. So he suppressed the redness on his cheeks. Actually, the main reason is that I don't know what questions you have. How do I know how to ask you? If you want to tell me something, just tell me. Although Lu Chang'an is very patient, if he doesn't play riddles, he won't guess. It's good to go. Qin Yan'an glanced at Zhou Dongdong. Lu Chang'an understood what she meant and waved his hand. She is a stupid robot today. On the surface, she is still sitting next to us. In fact, there is a time and space barrier surrounding her. She is not in the same time and space as us. Middle. Qin Yan'an was stunned. You don't have to worry about her. She won't hear you if you don't call her name. Lu Chang'an coughed lightly to test. There is a stupid kid sitting next to me. Normally, if Lu Chang'an said Zhou Dongdong was a stupid child, she would immediately retort that she was smart and brave, but there is no doubt that now the smart and brave child has opened the barrier and turned into a stupid robot that does not accept any interference and only follow an instruction faithfully. Qin Yan'an's handling of puffer fish is professional. After reading this article, please do not handle puffer fish at will. Once poisoned, the author of this article will not be responsible. Thank you for your cooperation. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 220. Qin Yan'an shook her head. She had discovered that Lu Chang'an really liked teasing Zhou Dongdong. The children were good-looking and cute. Even if they were a little stupid, they would occasionally be clever and make people smile. Qin Yan'an looked at Lu Chang'an carefully. The young man did not look like a father. A caring man will always make people like him more. Qin Yan'an thought that when he met him for the first time, he was teasing Zhou Dongdong, so her first impression of him would probably be better. Of course, these are just meaningless thoughts, but how can a woman not think divergently and create countless what-ifs? I went back and met my great-grandfather. He was not in the capital. He was still staying in his old house. He was in good health and in good spirits. He also listened to a few chapters of fairy novels every day. I just said that many young people nowadays are too violent. Immortals are not like that. Yes, what should an immortal be like? Qin Yan'an spoke a little longer, and it felt like he was talking eloquently. His tone was clean and soft, without the noise of saliva and oral movements, and it sounded very comfortable. That's good. Lu Chang'an nodded. But I can also hear that although my great-grandfather is nostalgic for the world, he has a feeling of quietly looking forward to his end. I don't understand the old man's spirit and psychology very well. Doesn't it mean that the older you get, the more you want to live longer? Qin Yan'an was confused. Said. A person's psychological state and spiritual state are determined by the physical condition most of the time. In a long-term healthy body, when various hormone secretions are at a relatively peak state, it is difficult for a person's psychological state to appear that of an elderly person. Old age. Lu Chang'an thought for a while. I really don't know about this question, and I have never been old, but the revolutionaries of your great-grandfather's generation have seen too many dead lives, and they may also have seen too many weird things. There is no fear of death. The immortal caressed my head, tied my hair and received eternal life. Lu Chang'an sent this to Qin Peng, just to extend Qin Peng's life. This was a signal from the previous agreement, But Qin Peng didn't mention a word about it, and it remained as he had done back then. He said that he would die naturally when his time was approaching. When Qin Yinan was sent to him, Lu Chang'an naturally understood that Qin Peng had redeemed the promise Lu Chang'an had given to Qin Yinan. Just waiting for death with a peaceful mind when you don't know that life can be extended, and knowing that life can be extended, but still giving up on extending it and waiting for death, are two different mentalities and states. I asked him why Lu Chang'an wanted me to stay in Junxia to take care of him when he already had a girlfriend. Lu Chang'an is a person who is used to living alone. He also has the ability to live alone and take care of himself. Why must I come? Looking after him like a little sister, Qin Yinan frowned slightly. Although before coming to Junxia, his life seemed to be very dull. After coming to Junxia, it was unexpectedly not boring after coming to Junxia. But doubts are just doubts. Does not disappear due to changes in perception. What did he say? Lu Chang'an also felt that this question was a problem. A person like Qin Peng would rarely act recklessly or act willfully, or act out of his mind. His actions must be well thought out and targeted. He has been more serious and devoted than his peers since he was a child. Lu Chang'an believes that this is an excellent quality that a boy should have when growing up. He said that you and I were married in the previous life. Qin Yinan's delicate lips became even more red because of the warm puffer fish soup. The blush on her cheeks was much duller, like a river of spring water with peach blossoms on both sides. Red dye color. He started to believe in reincarnation. Lu Chang'an smiled. Even if you look more and more like Yesijin, I would rather believe that you are a clone than reincarnation. Qin Yinan's face changed slightly, and the chopsticks on her fingers trembled for a moment. Do you suspect that I am a clone? Lu Chang'an laughed dumbly. Are you doubting that you are a clone? Don't I look like Yesijin today? Qin Yinan was obviously anxious and started to call her great-grandmother by her name. She stood up and turned around. Her breathing was a little short of breath, but she still held her chest habitually. The slit at the hem of the cheongsam was not high, but still it's like seeing a snow-white, moist ice cream stick in the desert under the scorching sun. Resemblance, even exactly the same, I mean the photo. Lu Chang'anza looked at Qin Yinan carefully. Seeing beautiful women, it has nothing to do with ambiguity or male and female matters, it is always pleasing to the eye. Isn't it normal for me to suspect that I am a clone? Qin Yinan sat down anxiously. You were born in 1992. In the eyes of many people born in the 2000s and 100s, you are an ant. Even those born in 1995 think you are old, but in 1992, if you want to clone you, you have to be cloned earlier. Relevant research and experiments have begun. Lu Chang'an waved his hand confidently. From my understanding, our country did not have the ability to help anyone casually at that time, even if it was a leader. Qin Yinan's anxiety only slowed down slightly, but her doubts did not dissipate. She said with a slight twist, maybe my age is also fake. Maybe I am still only 18 years old. What do you think? When a woman fantasizes about being young, it seems that the effect of this fantasy on herself is very obvious. Lu Chang'an eats dumplings by himself. If you are only 18 years old, then you are the same age as Zhu Huntang. But aren't there moments in your memory when you were obviously older than Zhu Huntang as a child? Qin Yinan thought for a while. This little fairy Zhu Huntang really proved her age, which was really annoying. It's not a clone, but I look too much like my great-grandmother. Is this the effect of intergenerational inheritance? Qin Yinan gave up her 18-year-old fantasy. Then just think of yourself as the reincarnation of Yesijin. The old man thinks like this, and it's just a thought. Just follow him. Why do you have to expose his obsession? Lu Chang'an shook his head and threw the dumpling to Zhou Dongdong. Moved over there. When the food came to his mouth, Zhou Dongdong temporarily opened the barrier, discovered the food, and started eating dumplings. But I'm not willing to accept it. I am who I am. Why do I have such a strong label of others? Even if she is my great-grandmother, I should be a completely independent personality. Chinyanan is no longer in the mood to eat. Are you afraid that you will really turn into Yesijin one day? Lu Chang'an saw the fear behind Chinyanan's eyes. Chinyanan stared at Lu Chang'an blankly, the moisture in her eyes making her cold eyes stained with the mist of many hot tears. There was no doubt that Lu Chang'an's straightforward question poked at her inner demons during this period. Let me analyze it. Your sleepwalking is actually very serious and the situation is very strange. It is definitely not what you explained. Even after you watched the video, you felt that it was not you, but Yesijin. Lu Chang'an looked at Chinyanan calmly. Your great-grandfather's incomprehensible obsession also made you unable to help but associate yourself with Yesijin. Even after you imitated Yesijin's words and deeds intentionally or unintentionally, you became more and more frightened. The more frightened you became, the more you tried to observe and imitate. In the process, you find the difference between yourself and Yesijin, but you are trying your best to imitate more and more like each other. This kind of psychological condition is very common, just like hypochondriasis. The more you are afraid of getting sick, the more you try to the symptoms in your body prove that you are sick. This fear of yours, this proof of self-abuse, ultimately aggravated your sleepwalking. I guess you did a lot of things besides asking your great-grandfather during your absence, such as seeing a psychiatrist? Checking your mind. Situation. Chinyanan looked at Lu Chang'an blankly. Everything he said was right. How could he know so clearly? Could it be that the man who appears frequently in his dreams is also him? The person I saw in the dream had no face, but the way and tone of the man in the dream really looked like Lu Chang'an. Thanks to the 3 newly added leaders today and the kind sponsorship from Zhou Dongdong's fan club, my first love is as bright as a lie and I was startled 3 times. Thanks to more book friends for their generous rewards, thank you for the 3rd update. In addition, all the leaders of this book are basically in the book friend group, 741825442. This group is very active, welcome to play.